The year 2000.
What's up? Good morning, Angel.
Good morning, Charlie.
There are no accidents.
Well done!
He called me Mr. Glass.
No! You threw off my groove!
I'm sorry, but you've thrown off the Emperor's groove.
Who is he?
I'm required to kill, so I kill.
Tell me your name.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, loyal servant to the true Emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next. Win the crowd, and you will win your freedom.
Are you not entertained?
Today I saw a slave become more powerful than the Emperor of Rome.
Am I not laughable?
What we do in life echoes in eternity. My signal. Unleash hell.
Welcome to another episode of Quantum Recast. I'm your host, Cory. With me, as always, is Nick. And joining
Shadows
us this episode...
and dust.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Whoa, okay. And joining us from across the pond is our buddy Ash.
Hello.
Would you like to scream a quote from the movie we're doing, Ash?
No. We're good. We're good.
Okay, all right. Well, again, if this is your first time here, let me tell you what Quantum Recast is. It is a podcast in which we take a film, take a movie out of its original release year, and we take it to a new release year, either forwards or backwards in time. So if you clicked on this, you know that we're taking 2000's epic, Ridley Scott epic, Gladiator, and we're taking it back to 1970. We're taking it way back. Might get a little uncomfortable here. Not the territory where I'm at my greatest strength here, but we'll see. But before we do that, if you're on social media, so are we. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of them. Just we're there. You can come engage with us and keep up with all the wonderful things Nick makes for our social media because he works so hard at it. I make like one thing and that's it. The rest is Nick. It's like 99% Nick.
That's true.
Its celebrity's face has been swapped with another celebrity's face. That's me. That's my forte. Everything else is Nick.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
I'm the Photoshop guy. Nick's essentially just the social media machine. So
you have the hardest job, Cory. So you got to give yourself some credit there.
No, Nick by far has the hardest job.
I was throwing you a bone.
Nick's usually texting me the night before a release. He's like, "So have you done that Photoshop yet?" And I'm like, "Oh gosh, no."
Post shot, please.
Oh no. Before we dive into Gladiator and the year 1970, guys, have you been watching anything since we last recorded that struck your fancy or totally made you vomit? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, the cinemas are actually dishing out some really good films. I went to see 65 last week. That's the new sci-fi space Adam Driver movie. So it's 65 million years ago. It's Jurassic Park in reverse. So instead of the dinosaurs coming into the present, we have to see a civilization that is like humans existing when the dinosaurs was. And it's actually quite clever. It's quite a good film. It's quite arty, actually.
Nice.
On the realms of Ad Astra rather than Jurassic Park. And it's a very low cast. The special effects are good. But if you're looking for Jurassic Park in this movie, you're not going to get it. It's something completely else. And I enjoyed it. It's a very short film for a sci-fi movie. It's like 90 minutes. But yeah, I watched that.
So I had just got back from a trip to Japan. And the best thing about going that far away is that sitting on a plane for 10 hours means that I could watch as many movies in that same span of time. But the one I will touch on is Joy, the David O. Russell film. I was actually surprised by and actually really enjoyed it. It's technically a biopic, but it doesn't feel like a biopic, which I really appreciated.
The Jennifer Lawrence one.
Yes, yeah, where she's playing the lady who invents the mop, the self-wash mop but it has all the same characteristics of a David O. Russell movie, a large cast, some memorable characters as well. And I think it's maybe kind of realized that I actually enjoy David O. Russell movies. I won't say like, oh my gosh, he's my favorite, but I'm just kind of tuning in and going like, okay, I think I like his style a little bit. So, but yeah, that was what I did in the tin can flying 600 miles per hour, was watched a lot of movies.
Amazing.
And went to Japan. That was fun too, so.
Okay, so Nick went to Japan, only liked the plane ride. I watched First Blood for the first time. Have you guys seen it?
A while ago, yeah.
It's pretty intense, yeah.
I was confused. Like, I looked at my wife halfway through. It's like, so Rambo's the bad guy. Like, he's just killing cops and everyone. And, like, I don't know if he got harassed that bad until he got to the jail. And even then, it's like, I don't know if he's handling it well. But then, of course, the end reveals this was a PTSD movie. Okay, it had a point. But the whole movie,
yes,
because I'm watching it in the hindsight of just Rambo being this one-man army type of thing. And then I guess it's a lot like the Rocky movies. The first one was really grounded. I didn't know this, and I'm just like, this dude's just hiding in the woods, picking people off. Like, in this small town. I'm just like, what is happening? So, but I ended up really, I liked it. It was a good movie.
That tends to be the trajectory of most Stallone movies.
When you add layers to like a full-blown action movie, kind of revealing. So when Cory mentioned it's about PTSD, I was like, oh shit, yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right. So that means we need to dive into this week's movie, which is Gladiator, released in 2000, directed by Ridley Scott, written by the team of Franzoni, Logan, and Nicholson, starring Russell Crowe, Joaquin Phoenix, and Connie Nielsen, as well as Oliver Reed and Richard Harris. Kind of a lot of royalty there. If you've never seen Gladiator, and that I completely understand if you haven't, I came late to Gladiator. I watched it like way after it was released. I did not see it initially.
How long are we talking, Cory?
Probably I didn't see it till like 8 years after it was out.
Okay.
Like 2008. Finally enough people wore me down to sit through it. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not really a sword and sandals kind of guy, but I think like maybe I finally saw like Troy and enjoyed it, and after a while, and that set with me. People were like, Gladiator's better, which I don't think it is. I think Troy's a better movie, which is controversial, and that's fine. I get it. Just hot take.
Ooh.
Hot take.
I do have a deep love for Troy as well.
Troy tickles with my passion, so yeah, Greek mythology. So yeah, I would agree.
But if you've never seen Gladiator, it's the story of a Roman general who essentially is thrown into slavery by the new emperor, the spoiled brat played by Joaquin Phoenix, and he ends up in the gladiatorial arena, winning over the people and challenging the authority of the dictator that is Commodus. It's a pretty fun movie. A little long, but I like it. It's useless critic stats. And some of this might actually shock you a little bit. You guys ready for useless critic stats on Gladiator?
Ooh,
yeah.
IMDb gives it an 8.5, which is pretty high. Rotten Tomatoes, an audience score of a solid 87%, but a critic score of only 79%. Metacritic comes in at the lowest, which is a 67 out of 100. But Letterboxd fans give it a 4.0 out of 5. So again, high score there. Roger Ebert. Are you guys ready for Roger Ebert?
Oh, God. What's he said?
I'm ready to feel pain again.
2 out of 4 stars. Not a fan of Gladiator, actually.
Whoa. What's up with Robert?
He never ceases to amaze me.
There's no character he related to.
I guess not.
He gave Face Off 4, and he gave this one 2.
I'm starting to think that Roger Ebert and I are like kindred spirits a little bit, because I don't love Gladiator either, but like I was shocked. I just figured it was going to be the 4 stars and gushing. He hates the aesthetic of this movie. Most of his reviews just like, it's all patina and dirt, and it's all clouds. There's no sun or blue skies, and he's like, he doesn't like the models of Rome.
I feel like that's one of the nice things about the movies, like the set pieces and everything. Like, it looks really good for 2000. It holds up well.
Roger's just like royalty, though. So when he says something that is kind of like controversial, you kind of have to take it with a pinch of salt, or listen to what he's saying and saying, okay, maybe he does have a point here. And usually he's not wrong, which makes it even more interesting when he slashes great movies like this. But there you go.
It's a weird critique, because I feel like it's a pretty heavy story. So I feel like the aesthetic fits. I feel like blue skies and sunshine would have been really contrasting. What's pretty much a tragic film, like from beginning to end.
It's a melodrama. Like, it doesn't need to be bright and happy. Maybe he walked out of Spice World right into Gladiator and was just like, you know what? Not enough color, not enough energy.
No, I don't understand. Like, Ridley Scott's just designed to make like visionary movies, so I don't understand. He must have known that coming in. So, and he was a big fan of Blade Runner, so I'm kind of shocked. This is a film about it's basically a Shakespearean film set in Roman times. So,
but that's a good point. Like, Ebert knows Ridley Scott. He made Alien and Blade Runner. These are dark, depressing set pieces. So I'm not sure what he walked into Gladiator thinking, like, Maximus is going to find like his family crucified and like butterflies are going to come by and like rays of sunshine are coming. I don't understand what he's looking for at all. So that's Gladiator in a nutshell. I'm assuming almost half the planet has seen this film by now. It's my wife's favorite movie, like, by far. She doesn't even love movies.
Really?
She loves Gladiator. She watches it every year. Like, she was so pumped that we watched it for this. She's a little concerned. Like, the thing is, she's not familiar with 70s actors. And so it's like, she's like, who's going to play? I was like, I don't know. I don't know who to tell you, babe. And she's like, make it work. Make it good. So I'm like, I'm sorry.
We have pressure, Ash. We have to do it for... Yeah,
I know. I'm sweating.
Oh, she'll ask me today, like later. She's like, "Who got in?" And I'll have to bring up YouTube clips. I can't say names, and she'll be like, "Oh, that person." And I'm like,
"This guy here on the left."
And so we've had multiple arguments where I always said, like, you know who would have been a better Maximus than Russell Crowe? Denzel Washington. And she gets so mad. She gets so
really
mad every time I say it. Yeah.
Funny you should say that. He's literally been casted in the second Gladiator movie.
Oh yes, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
See, I'm right.
There's a sequel. Somehow Maximus has lived. I don't know. I don't know what the plot
I think they're doing Lucius's story, who was a real character in history, and they've just casted Paul Mescal, the guy who just got nominated for an Oscar, the Irish actor.
Yeah, for After Sun.
Oh, yeah.
Now that we know the stakes of Gladiator on my marriage, let's talk about 1970. So the top 10 of 1970. So coming in at number 10, Catch-22. 9, Tora Tora Tora. Number 8, Ryan's Daughter. Number 7, Little Big Man. 6, the documentary Woodstock. Number 5, my all-time favorite Disney film, The Aristocats. Number 4, Patton. 3, MASH. Number 2, Airport. And coming in at number 1, Love Story. And so that was the top 10 highest grossing films of 1970.
Oh, you like The Aristocats?
That is an interesting... Yeah, he's a big Aristocats fan.
I like it because the villain isn't... I think most Disney films in that era, or of that era, before and after, kill off the villain, but I think this is the only one where he doesn't die. Edgar, I think he gets shipped off to Timbuktu.
Yeah.
All the others are absolutely...
right.
They get annihilated. But he's not really a villain at the start, is he?
Well, I mean, no, it's because the old lady cuts him out of the will. I think he's like, justified a little bit.
I think so too, because he doesn't kill the cats. He just puts sleeping tablets in them and ditches them somewhere. He doesn't go out and throw them off a bridge or anything.
Yeah, he could have been way worse. To me, I think what I like about Aristocats, and I think what I like about a lot of Disney movies, is the peripheral characters are like I like movies with strong, and I think it has the strongest cast of peripheral characters. So
Are you talking about like the kittens and the scat cat and all them?
yeah, Lafayette, Napoleon, all them.
Yeah,
It's great.
yeah.
So
This is an interesting top 10 because it's most of it I've never heard of. The top 2 movies I've never heard of or seen, and then there's a documentary in the middle of it. Like, it's crazy.
Wait, what year was Woodstock, by the way? Like the actual concert? When was that? The festival?
the year before, 1969, right?
I assume, yeah, 69.
It's a
yeah.
massive festival, but I've just read about it, and it's a really big deal for some reason.
Yeah, it's in 1969 because that dumpster fire of Woodstock '99 was like the 30th year anniversary.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Right,
Yeah,
right,
okay.
right.
Okay, so that brings us to the Oscars for the red carpet. We're just coming out of our Oscar season, so let's see who won those gold statuettes for films of 1970. The best actress in a supporting role was Helen Hayes for Airport. Best actor in a supporting role was John Mills for Ryan's Daughter. Best actress went to Glenda Jackson for Women in Love. And best actor went to, of course, George C. Scott for Patton. And for best picture of 1970, the nominees were MASH, Love Story, 5 Easy Pieces, Airport, and the winner was Patton. So Patton took home some of the big ones that year. It's kind of odd. We don't usually see a massive overlap between the top 10 and the Oscars, but we kind of do this year.
That's what was surprising. Like, the Airport and the Love Story were also, big Oscar contenders.
All right. And then twin films of 1970. What do we have here? We only have a couple. We have Leo the Last and The Landlord. Both deal with issues of class and race and feature an upper class man who moves into a lower class black neighborhood and gets involved with the residents. So, The Strawberry Statement and Getting Straight, also Revolutionary and RPM, are all dramas about campus revolt. So that was a big one. Protests on campuses.
Okay.
And then finally, there were 2 adaptations of a Russian novel called The 12 Chairs. They doubled down on that. So
What year to do that?
Oh, and then there were 2 biopics on Ma Barker, the Grissom Gang, and Bloody Mama. So yeah, all right. There was actually quite a few twin films in 1970. This is not a new phenomenon. This has been happening for a while.
Big twin movie year, Corey. Big twin movie year.
Twin year.
So then that brings us to okay, so listen, I don't know how to handle this. This is where we talk about our favorite movies of 1970. I have no idea if you guys have favorite movies from 1970. It's kind of a blank year for me. So what do you guys got?
Other than Aristocats, I don't really have anything on the list.
I looked at the list of films that came out in 1970, and I realized I have watched some of them. I just didn't know it came out in 1970. There was a film, La Marala Verde, which means the Green Wall. That was a film that came out, and I've watched that. It's a Peruvian film, and it did really well commercially. And it's a story of a city couple who are pretty comfortable with their lives, and they just decide to pack up and say, look, we need to start living our lives. And they go into the Peruvian jungle to live. During the movie, a lot of weird stuff starts to happen in the jungle. It's a really, really good movie. And I think it was quite ahead of its time, but it was the start of those experimental films. But yeah, it's called The Green Wall. And there was one more film which I thought I'd mention, just because I'm a big fan of Dracula. Scars of Dracula came out in 1970. I think it was like the first maybe not the first, but it was one of the first franchises. So this is like the 5th film where Christopher Lee plays Dracula. It's just really about a guy who spends a night at Dracula's castle.
Oh, it's Hammer horror?
Yeah, exactly. A Hammer Dracula movie is the franchise.
Nice.
Yeah, basically a guy just stays at his house and his castle, gets murdered, then he gets investigated by his lost brother. So it's actually quite a good movie in the franchise. I think there was 6 in total. And that's about it. That's all I have. I would say the Aristocats as well, but I think everyone's seen that. So,
What about you, Nick? Do you have anything?
So looking through the list, I kind of did what Cory did and pulled up a list of movies that a watch list, if you will, some homework for myself. Obviously MASH. I was going to watch that leading up to this episode, just ran out of time. I guess Patton needs to be one I need to watch, and then I was probably going to watch either Love Story or Kelly's Heroes, a Clint Eastwood war movie. But I think that those three those are ones that I'm familiar with, or they seem to be important to this year. So I've added them to my endless list of movies to watch, and we'll hopefully get around to them someday.
The big list.
So for me, I kind of just said, what do I need to watch? Because I've seen Patton, I've seen Aristocats, so I kind of wanted to look at movies that like I might want to get around to. I know Mick Jagger was in kind of this Australian Western called Ned Kelly that I know about and have been meaning to watch forever because that just intrigues me. Mick Jagger in a Western. So that's more of just a curiosity thing. There's a movie I started not long ago called Joe that seems pretty good. I started reading Quentin Tarantino's cinema perspective book, and it's one he brought up as like one of the first movies he kind of remembers seeing in theaters. And it sounds crazy. It's like a dad whose daughter's like run off a hippie, and he's like super mad. He runs into this like super right wing guy in a bar, and like he just fuels his hatred towards like hippies. I don't know. It sounds very 70s. Lastly, just kind of researching like this year as we were approaching this episode, there was a Crooked Man. Sounds awesome. It's like a part of that whole prison escape genre.
What is that?
Well, it's like that whole prison escape genre that was like kind of big at the time, but it's like mostly older dudes.
Oh, okay.
It's got a lot of actors that like might get screwed with in this episode because it's kind of an all-star cast, but like I'm not seeing it, so like, you know, I can't really call it sacrosanct yet. Oh,
Make a judgment call there.
oh, and there's a movie that I came across researching this called like Little Faust in Big Halsey, and it's like a movie where sex symbol Robert Redford is like in a love triangle with like the nerdiest, smallest like Rick Moranis of his day, Michael G. Pollard. They're both dirt bike racers and like both like pursuing the same woman, and that just intrigues the crap out of me. That's like watching Rick Moranis like in a rom-com with, I don't know, Will Smith in the 90s. Like, it makes no sense. Like,
Rick Moranis, the guy from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I can't imagine that.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's like Michael J. Pollard was kind of the Rick Moranis of his day, is what I'm saying. So
Interesting.
I do want to watch this. Well, this is where we talk about why someone chose this film. And I chose this film. Just to be completely honest, I chose this film because I felt like we needed to do a big movie. Nick and I argued for about 2 weeks over this versus Troy because we kind of like also, when I brought up Gladiator, we were like, sword and sandal. We've never really done sword and sandal here, I guess, on the podcast, like that genre.
Listen, in our hearts, we wanted Troy, and Troy will still potentially be an episode because, you know, me and Cory probably will pick it at some point. But yeah, I think I agree with Cory that it was kind of like the sword and sandal movie of modern times to really talk about, because without Gladiator, you don't probably get Troy or 300 or anything that follows after it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is interesting because I think Gladiator did do that, and then most of the epic films that came after failed horribly. Like, nobody replicated Gladiator. Like, you had what was it? Kingdom.
It was a mixed bag for sure. Yeah. Kingdom of Heaven was one. I enjoy it, but it was one of those, you know, the studio messed with it. The director's cut's way better.
The director cut are good. It's really good.
Yeah, there's some hidden gems in there after Gladiator for sure.
I'm assuming you both just enjoy Gladiator quite a bit.
Yeah, Gladiator was one of the first films I watched at the cinema, and Ridley Scott was becoming up and coming, and this is a guy who's from Manchester in England, and the opening sequence of that movie was shot 20 minutes away from where I live, so that obviously brought a lot of it's kind of like, oh cool, let's see if we can spot the forest. Not that you can spot a tree from anywhere, but it was kind of cool to know that it was that forest that was used in Farnborough. And yeah, I think it holds well, I think, still today, because it's the story. And this is the classic example of if you have a good story, then you've got to execute it well. And I think Ridley Scott was the perfect person to, take this story away. This is a classic David versus Goliath movie, and it's, turned on its head, and it's a very poetic movie with poetic justice. It's the main character who wants to die, who's trying to get revenge. There's a reason this film won the Oscar, because it was really well handled, I think.
Yeah, I think it was just a perfect storm of timing and stuff for the movie, just because it was this big historical epic. It had been missing for many decades, really. And then, the production value, the actors involved really raised the level of this story that could have been seen as probably just like a nice blockbuster, but it turned out to be this big Oscar-winning movie. For me, this was one of the first, we'll call it, grown-up movies that I got to watch. I believe watched it on VHS, rented it from Blockbuster or something probably, and was super into it the entire time. I think probably, Cory, and this will probably help make sense to you, because it's around the same time of wrestling's Attitude Era and stuff. We're reaching the end of it, but this, by all means, is just that same kind of like over the top melodramatic idea of like the underdog fighting the system and working his way up to face, the face of the company, basically. And so I think it fits into that general theme that's going on in the late 90s of like the man versus the machine kind of thing.
That's a good analogy, actually, because it would have been around the time of the whole Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon thing in wrestling, which was the most popular thing on the planet at the time. So yeah, all right, no, that's pretty cool. Okay, I've never like made that connection as like, I'm gonna watch this movie next time, like thinking about pro wrestling.
Vince versus Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Like, because Proximo's telling him about, he's like, I wasn't the best gladiator because I was good. I was the best because I won the crowd. You have to win the crowd to get on your side and stuff. I'm like, oh my God, this is just wrestling.
Yeah. And wrestling was massive in the mid 90s, following up to 2000s as well. So it was good to see a serious tone in the movie as well. And one thing I would say, just to play devil's advocate, was I think the only sort of movie that sort of replicates this tone excuse me, was Braveheart, like 5 years prior, which also has the main character's family brutally murdered at the start and the main character dying at the end. So it does follow like this generic storyline, which I think studios were like, okay, let's try and do it again. Let's base it on another real event that happened. And like you guys have mentioned, after 2000, after Gladiator, nothing really replicated that genre again, that style, which was lost on. I think Troy maybe tried it in 2004, but and I think that's more of the fan favorite rather than Braveheart. For me, I prefer Troy because it's more attractive to watch. It's easier to watch than Gladiator and Braveheart. Whereas,
I think Troy's definitely the one that, for some reason, it should have been like a much bigger blockbuster hit. Like, you've got Brad Pitt as Achilles and stuff, and for some reason, it didn't blow up as big as maybe it should have.
So for me, I saw Gladiator late, and I felt like I was coming into a situation where by the time I finally saw it, it was overhyped, and maybe that's why it's never like hit me the way it should. Though I've seen it now a few times, just being married to my wife, who forces me to watch it once a year. So I've seen it now quite a few times. I've seen it in English and Spanish. It's got a very solid Spanish dub.
Oh,
and so
nice.
I do enjoy the movie. I think here's my main issue with Gladiator, and it's really just one character. It's Senator Gracchus. He looks like at all times he's about to whip a microphone out of his ass and like host a Roman game show. I call him Senator Botox. He doesn't fit. He looks like he wandered onto the set from like a theater production of a Roman thing, and like he just everyone else looks gritty and like of the time, and he just looks really fake every time.
Everyone else looks really, really good.
Apart from you.
I don't think it is. I think he looks too good. Everyone else looks weathered and like war beaten, and he looks like he just again like he's about to host a he looks like a game show host from Rome. I don't know. It just throws me off every time. I can't stand him every time he's on screen. So
I actually understand what you're trying to say.
The only argument I might make against that is he's playing a senator, and they're like, the higher class 1% kind of type people of Rome. So maybe the intention was he's supposed to look clean, he's supposed to look well kept and stuff, but the rest of the senators don't look that nice. So Cory has a point.
Yeah, like Falco looks like he's seen some stuff. Like he's like he's got scars all over his face. Like it looks like he earned it or something. Like he's been out there and like I don't know. So
he just looks good, man. That's all it is. He just looks good.
No, he just looks like he came from like his Botox appointment, like down that whatever. But no, I do love this movie. I'm glad we're doing it. We usually end here by saying, how does the movie change? And I just don't think it does. We're taking it to the appropriate time in Hollywood where sword and sandal films were a thing. They were actually just kind of just ending.
Yeah, we're entering that. The 60s were very well known for it.
Yeah, I mean, 1970 is considered, well, the 1970s decade is considered some of the most influential cinema films of all time. Godfather, Rocky, Star Wars, Jaws. And you've introduced to Coppola, Scorsese, Spielberg, Lucas. So I think this was sort of the start of the 1970 was trying to come off the classic Hollywood vibe. The Cary Grants and sort of merging into the Marlon Brandos and going grittier instead of more Hollywood, star-studded. And like we just discussed, 1969 came off the moon landing, Woodstock, the Manson murders. So, everyone was on edge already. So it was okay to make some risks here. So I think a film like Gladiator is definitely perfect for this kind of year to sort of just go all out, have a go at set design, cast an unknown, go full out on it. Because that's what they did. Spielberg was 5, 6 when he did Jaws. They just took a risk on this random kid. So yeah, this is the all or make it decade, which is why it was so good. So yeah, I think it's in the right year.
Yeah, what you're seeing is the end of the old Hollywood system. Those epics and stuff are a product of that, and so the late 60s is the introduction of movies that are more artist based, like Easy Rider and stuff, where you're getting a lot of very much more guerrilla style filmmaking. A lot of different styles of filmmaking are coming in outside of the Hollywood system, and so I think that's why these big epics, one of the reasons they started to go away, also due to their over the top budgets. Because you're looking at you look at movies like Cleopatra, the 10 Commandments and stuff that came before, and those are giant sets, those are giant groups of extras and stuff. And the reason Gladiator worked, or they were able to do it off, is because the technology had caught up. So much of the scenes in the arena are, they've taken a crowd and they've copied them and put them in different spots and digitized it all. It's kind of the Mad Max rule of things at Fury Road, where it's like there's real stuff we're filming out in light and daylight and stuff, but we are using the technology to fill in the blanks, basically. And that's why I think it stands the test of time like it does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, I think this probably would have been like a De Palma or Kubrick film in 1970. Like, this would have been one of those guys taking a shot at this. All right, cool. That means it's time to cast Gladiator. Should I say recast Gladiator in 1970?
1970.
Beyond the Valley of the Dolls.
We're going to cut out their living guts.
I'll blow it to hell and go on with the train on. Program for perfect happiness. Perfect happiness. Perfect happiness.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
You have arrived.
I chose this film, which means I will be serving as the director of Gladiator 1970, and you two have both prepared cast lists for Gladiator 1970, and you're going to pitch me your actors, and I'm going to choose. So, but you guys are bound to rules. So if you're a first-time listener of Quantum Recast, these are the casting rules for Quantum Recast, because you can't just travel in time all willy-nilly. There has to be regulation, or you create, like, I don't know, a wormhole or paradox or something that kills everybody. And movies just aren't worth it. as much as we love them. So, rule number 1, anyone you cast in Gladiator 1970 must be alive in 1970. They cannot be deceased. We are time travelers, but we're not going to bring people back from the dead. Rule number 2, anyone you cast in Gladiator 1970 must be active. They must be actively acting. They must be available to act. They cannot be in prison or caught up in anything else or on break, anything like that. So, and then rule number 3, anyone we cast in 1970s Gladiator must be already acting. They must be active, which means we define that as they must have already 1 IMDb credit in 1970 or prior to. And so, then the very, very last rules where the stakes come in. Anyone you cast in 1970s Gladiator will lose all major film credits in 1970 because we're those guys. You have to dedicate yourself to this film in 1970. So, I, as the director, have 2 power-ups. At any time during the casting, I can retroactively switch anyone that's already been placed on the board, anyone that's chosen. If I just look at it and say, nope, I want to move these people here, or do a little shuffling around, I can do that at any point during the casting. And then finally, I have an override. Only 1 override, which has to happen during the casting of a particular character. I can tell you both you did terrible, or I don't like it, or I don't see it. And I can put an actor in of my choosing while still bound to the rules, though. I cannot supersede the rules, even as director. All right, so we're going to hop into our 30 seconds or less round where we like to cast characters that we love, but maybe don't want to talk or take a lot of time talking about because we don't want to be a 5-hour podcast. So, coming in is Maximus's wife. I guess she doesn't have a name in the movie? I didn't pay attention.
I don't think so, actually, strangely.
It does, but it's not mentioned in the movie.
I don't think it's in the... Let me check the cast list real quick.
Hold on, let me... I'm going to feel bad if she got a name, and I'm just saying...
True.
Maximus'
The writers
wife.
gave her a name.
Okay, did the writers give her a name? Let's look it up. We have IMDb. We have the technology.
Oh god.
Played by...
Oh god. No, that's not it.
Nope, it just says Maximus's wife. And Maximus's son. That's what IMDb says, so it's so so we're just saying we're not degrading this actress. IMDb says Maximus's wife. So
she has it's a non-speaking role, so it's fair, but they probably should have just penciled in a name. That would have been nice.
I've got a name. It's Gianni Facio.
Well, no, that's her name. That's the actress's name. So, I'm just talking about the character.
We're gonna name the actress after her. Okay.
Okay. Okay, that's fair.
Name. To shout out for the lady.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah. I'm even Googling it and nothing. Man.
Nothing.
All right.
Let me. Okay. Look up the actual historical figure of Maximus.
I don't know that Maximus was real. I know
based
Commodus
off of,
and Marcus Aurelius and everybody's real. I don't know if Maximus Decimus Meridius is real.
Okay, hang on.
Actress was in every Ridley Scott movie.
Oh.
Well,
dang, Ridley, throw her a bone and give her a real name.
I know, right? And this is not the first movie where she's nameless. She's casted as woman with mobile phone in The Counselor, Hoffman's wife in Body of Lies, Maitre d' in A Good Year, and sister in Kingdom of Heaven. Jesus, he doesn't like her.
This is his niece or something. It's
yeah, must be.
His sister's calling him come on, give her a role.
Have we uncovered a Ridley Scott secret affair in his movies?
Maybe, I don't know.
I think, honestly, look at her biography. It's Ridley Scott movies only. Yeah, it's definitely going on.
So
it's his wife.
Oh my god, they're married.
There it is. There it is.
Now,
were they married before Gladiator, or did he marry her after Gladiator?
They got married in 2015, so there was an affair going on during Gladiator.
Well, there it is. There it is.
There
Gee,
it is.
No
Were
wonder
either
he-
of them? Were either of them
I
married
don't know.
before?
I'm not sure.
Well, this is like a
Um,
investigation now. Hold on, let's have a look.
No.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He
We've
was
just turned
married.
into a mystery podcast.
Ridley Scott was married in.
Yeah.
Okay.
64 to
married.
75, 79 to 89, and then he was single after 89. So I think it's just he was divorced. He didn't want to hop back into it, but then Giannia caught his eye, caught his fancy, but he didn't rush into things.
Fair.
He didn't
Fair,
rush
fair.
into things.
Respectable.
so-
A respectable courtship. Yeah.
Cast her in some bit parts and then fell in love. So it's
And-
actually a love story.
Yeah.
It's not dirty. It's not dirty. All right.
So to wrap it all up, so Maximus is allegedly based on the historical figure Marcus Nonius Macrinus, what is called Marcus. He was a Roman senator and general during Emperor Antonius's time. His wife's name may have been named Arria, Arria, Arria.
This is 30 seconds or less, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've gone on a complete
Why?
deep dive of the first.
Listen, we had to have justice. we had to right this wrong, and we discovered something about a nice, genuine Hollywood romance behind the scenes. Love does happen behind the scenes, guys, in a very nice way.
I feel like we all learned something. So
Yeah,
it's
I
fine.
did.
Okay,
we did,
so
we did.
so 30 seconds or less. Maximus's wife, possibly named Arria, played by Giannina Fazio. And then we're doing Senator Falco. Or nope, sorry, we kicked Falco out, right?
Yes,
We
Tigris.
did. We did.
We kicked Senator Falco out in place of Tigris of Gaul. I don't know.
Tigress.
Oh,
Tigris
of Gaul.
Apologies. My apologies.
Sorry. I was just going by how I pronounce the river. Okay. So, Tigris of Gaul. I don't know who played him. It's not on my Google Sheets.
Oh god, here we go again.
Oh no, we're so
Hold on.
Sven Ole Thorson.
Okay, Sven Ole Thorson. That sounds like a gladiator. Wow. Okay. Senator Gracchus, Senator Botox, played by Derek Jacobi. Number 12. Hagen, played by Rolf Moeller. And then Quintus, played by Thomas Arana. Cicero, played by Tommy Flanagan. And I can't believe you guys are going to cast a kid in 1970. Lucius, played by Spencer Treat Clark. So I guess
That is why he is in the 30 or less. I have not. We've been down this road, Cory. We can't cast Ron Howard's brother and everything. Okay,
it's true. All right, that's 30 seconds or less. So I'm going to start from the bottom. I'm going to go up. I'm going to speed cast it. I'll say one of your names, throw me an actor, and we'll do this really fast because we've already spent a lot of time.
justified time, Cory.
We had to get to the bottom of it.
All right, 30 seconds or less. All right, Maximus's wife, Ash.
Goldie Hawn.
Nick.
Sophia Loren.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with Goldie Hawn. Tigris of Gaul, Ash.
Michael Caine.
Nick.
Legendario luchador mexicano El Santo.
Huh?
What?
The legendary Mexican wrestler El Santo.
Oh, El Santo. Yeah, we're going El Santo. Yeah, El Santo all day. We're just gonna modify his lucha libre mask for this movie. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Senator
Never
Gracchus.
takes off the helmet.
Senator Gracchus. Ash.
Yul Brenner.
Ooh. Wow. Nick.
Give me a moment. I've ruined my list. One second. His day. Crap. I changed my 30 seconds or less real quick. Hold on. And I wrote the wrong name in the wrong place.
You're on a roll, Nick.
Hold on. Okay. All right. My character for Gracchus, David Tomlinson, from best known as George Banks in Mary Poppins.
Ooh. I'm going to go with Dave Tomlinson. Yeah. Even.
Nice.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
I like that one.
He looks. Okay. Hagen. Ash.
Andre the Giant.
Ooh. Nick.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I also had down Andre the Giant for this, so it's going to be Andre the Giant.
Oh, great minds.
Quintus. Ash.
Montgomery Clift.
Ooh.
Nick.
James Coburn, known for Magnificent Seven and Great Escape.
Ooh, yeah, James Coburn. Let's go, James Coburn. I love it. I love James Coburn.
That was a good choice, Ash. I like that.
Yeah, no, those were both good. Which makes me feel like you guys are gonna blow it up top. All right, Cicero. Ash.
I've gone with one of my favorite actors, Robert Duvall.
Ooh. Nick.
I'll take your Robert Duvall, who I had there, but instead I placed young Al Pacino.
Ooh, Pacino.
Oh no. Okay. It's just 30 seconds or less, Cory. Don't think about it too much. It's gonna pain me more to see Robert Duvall get a chest full of arrows. So Robert Duvall. It's gonna pain me more.
Okay. All right, that's fair.
And then finally, Lucius. Ash.
I'm so sorry for this one. Donny Osmond. I hate Lucius, and I hate the Osmond family, but there you go.
Okay, fair.
The only kid I could find.
I just chose Danny Bonadus from the Partridge Family. He's just the young son of the Partridge Family.
Oh my gosh, you both just pilfered from musical families. Fictitious and real.
Had nothing else.
I mean, like, I feel like I have to go with Donny Osmond because people would actually be afraid of the kid dying. I think Danny Bonaducci, people would be like, just kill the kid. So, yeah. So, I'm going to go with Donny Osmond.
Wait.
Donny.
How old is Donny at this point?
I think he's 11.
Is he?
Let me double
He's
check.
11? Okay.
I haven't got a good reputation of age.
Yeah, he's like 11, 12.
That worked.
Yeah. No, he's
And
fine.
he's the main character in the sequel, so he can do that.
Yeah, we can bring Donny Osmond back. So,
Exactly.
all right. Oh,
13,
wow.
he's 13.
Oh my gosh. Okay, 30 seconds or less. That was just listen to the listeners. We took like 3 weeks off. We took a small sabbatical. We're finding our feet.
Listen, to the power of editing, this will all just disappear, and it'll be like nothing happened.
Oh, they won't know. We'll have to release a
They won't know
director's
the links we went to.
Oh dear.
Well, moving up to the main cast for Gladiator 1970, we will be casting Marcus Aurelius, Juba, Antonius Proximo, Lucilla, Commodus, and of course Maximus Decimus Meridius. So we will be starting at the bottom with Marcus Aurelius.
I am dying, Maximus. When a man sees his end, he wants to know there was some purpose to his life. How will the world speak my name in years to come? Will I be known as the philosopher, the warrior, the tyrant? Or will I be the emperor who gave Rome back her true self?
Who is played by Richard Harris, who most people might know as the original Dumbledore from Harry Potter. Died shortly after Harry Potter 1, and so he was recast, but he's also been in things such as Unforgiven, Camelot, The Count of Monte Cristo. So he's kind of, some acting.
He's been around.
Yeah.
He knows the battlefield.
Yeah, he's a big deal. Marcus Aurelius, of course, one of the original Stoic philosophers, the old and wise emperor of Rome, who appoints Maximus over his own son, whom he loves as a son. It's kind of like that whole thing where, like, the dad who wanted the baseball playing quarterback son, but got like the chess loving, like AV
Right.
nerd type of thing. And so,
Yep.
but really, he chooses Maximus to be the new emperor, or like just the successor, to hand power
Yeah.
back over to the Senate, because he kind of sees Commodus as maybe like for lack of a better word, kind of an a-hole. Like, this guy probably
He
should
knows
have power.
Commodus is a crazy kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Unstable.
and so, murdered by his own son when he gives him this bad news, by the way. So,
The worst place to tell your son, hey, you don't get to be emperor of Rome.
With no witnesses.
Let me pull you into my room by myself. If I'm sitting there, I've got Quintus, I got Maximus, I got witnesses. Yes, Ash, I got witnesses by me going, you're not in charge. Yeah.
and like,
Maybe a plot hole of the movie, I don't know, or just really a really dumb decision by a wise emperor to like bring your psychotic son into the room to tell him he's not going to get the job.
Exactly.
Yeah,
well, I
right.
mean, when Agamemnon confronted Achilles, he had everyone there, so he obviously learned from that lesson. Exactly.
Yeah, and it's right after he tells Maximus, "Well, my son's not a moral man." So, yeah, maybe
He never thought he'd kill him, though.
Yeah, that's true. Like, didn't think like maybe like he was like just thought like he wouldn't be a great leader, but not a murderer. Okay, so didn't know. But again, proves like I think maybe Richard was, or maybe Marcus Aurelius wasn't a great dad. Like let's just maybe wasn't a great father. Too busy trying to share wisdom with the world. He should have been sharing it with the son. All right. Ash, I started with you at bottom. So Nick, I'm going to give you first dibs here on Marcus Aurelius. Who do you have?
Ooh-wee. All right. So for my Marcus Aurelius, I went with an older gentleman, obviously. He has been known for movies back in the 50s and 60s as well. You probably know him from certain movies such as The Asphalt Jungle, Chinatown, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, and The African Queen. I'm bringing you John Huston, Cory. I think that I don't believe he is English per se, like our Richard Harris previously, but he has that strong voice, a very memorable, deep baritone and also there are photos of him with this fully grown out beard like Richard Harris and Marcus Aurelius, and I think he would just kind of nail that wiser, later in his years kind of guy who's just trying to do the right thing and set everything right into place. And I think he can just kind of nail that from what I've seen of his movies in Chinatown and Sierra Madre.
Okay. All right. I like it. Ash, who do you have?
Yeah, I like that one. Nick. Yeah, like you mentioned before, I needed someone that everyone knew, someone people respected, the audience knew and respected, and he was a big star of the 50s, the 60s. And like Nick, I also didn't go with someone British. I went with someone completely the opposite, someone born in Nebraska. But this guy definitely has the acting chops to do authoritative figures. I think his biggest film was in the 50s, 12 Angry Men, and has held high. So for this one, I'm going to give you a 65-year-old Henry Fonda. 12 Angry Men being his biggest movie. Then you've got The Grapes of Vine, you've got The Serpent. And in 1970, he was quite busy. He did 3 films, Too Late the Hero, The Cheyenne Social Club, and There Was a Crooked Man. None of the explosive films that he's known for, like 12 Angry Men, The Dirty Game, The Longest Day. But yeah, I think it sort of matches what Richard Harris was. Everyone knew who he was and what his face looked like, and he's respected when you look at him. So that's why I went with Henry Fonda.
And just to put into perspective, John Huston in 1970, he did The Devil's Backbone, Myra Breckinridge, The Kremlin Letter, and actually a sequel to The Treasure of Sierra Madre called The Bridge in the Jungle, which looks kind of forgettable, to be honest.
Wow. The Maya Breckinridge movie came up a couple times when I was just going through the 1970 movies. That sounds like a wild film. It's like a transgender film starring Raquel Welch, and it's rated X in 1970, and it's got a ton of people in it. I'm like, this seems wild. I'm probably gonna watch that at some point. Wow. Okay, so you both did really good here. But I think like I know where I'm gonna go. And I don't normally do this. Nick does this, and Ash, you might do this when you're director. Y'all cast your own people, kind of to always be prepared for that override. I don't normally do that. I normally just pick a character that I love, and that's where I just focus. But I actually cast this movie. I put Laurence Olivier, just Mr. Shakespeare himself, but I actually kind of like your guys' more. But here's where Ash went correct. First of all, 12 Angry Men is one of my favorite movies of all time. So it's just
you got him there. Yeah.
I mean, you just got me there. But also,
Playing to your heart.
I feel like Richard Harris plays like old and weak really well. And I feel like John Huston's like could kill Commodus even when he was old.
He's a little too oil tycoon-y. Okay, I get it.
I just feel like he could have got out of that, put Commodus in a headlock and had him murdered and like been fine. Whereas Henry Fonda, I feel like would play that more tragic father, get on his knees and like, be murdered. Yeah. Fragile. Fragile's a great word. So I'm going to go Henry Fonda here. Fonda here for that reason. I like both. I just feel like John Huston was like, maybe did too many Westerns. And I'm just like, nah, that dude's going to kill Commodus the second he lays hands on him. All right. That brings us to Juba.
My home. My wife is preparing food. My daughters carry water from the river. Will I ever see them again? I think no.
Do you believe you'll see them again when you die?
I think so. But then, I will die soon.
Played by Jimon Hunsen. I know we've tried to say this guy's name 100 times on this podcast, and I never get it right.
Digimon.
Digimon.
Yeah, Digimon Hunsen, I think.
Okay, Digimon Hunsen.
Let us know if we're wrong.
Who? Yes, please. Who listens to the podcast, so he can tell us. Which, of course, Digimon was in Blood Diamond, Amistad, Guardians of the Galaxy, in America Constantine, Aquaman. He's been in a lot of things. He is
according to Google, the way to pronounce his name is Jaimin Hansu.
Okay, Jaimin Hansu. I was like, normally the DJ just makes a J sound, like Django, and stuff like that. So okay, Jaimin Hansu. Okay, cool. He plays the character of Juba, a Numidian tribesman who was taken from his home and family by slave traders. He becomes Maximus's closest ally and friend, and inspires Maximus to bring down Commodus for the greater good before he joins his family in the afterlife. I think Jaimin plays the character really well. I just don't know that the character's that fleshed out in the movie. I feel like I always think that he could be more fleshed out.
It had potential.
For sure.
Yeah.
The movie sometimes has like it has a lot of the stock kind of characters of these type of films, and I think that's sort of its appeal, that it's more broad strokes, but at the same time, you're kind of like, I wish we'd had a little more time with this. But
character. I think that's the danger of Ridley Scott. All of his movies have these great stock characters that haven't got time to develop. I mean, look at Alien, look at Prometheus, American Gangster, but Black Hawk Down. I mean, as a star-studded cast, it's unfortunate. It's also a weakness and a strength to have these good characters in the background.
For sure.
All right. Well, Nick, for Juba, you did not make it. So, Ash,
I did not. Way to psych me out there. He held the ball out and went, actually, Ash gets the ball.
Ash is making it, so he's taking it. Who do you have, Ash?
This was a tough one, and I'll be honest with you. I originally put Michael Caine down for this, and then I realized that this wasn't going to work for various reasons. As much as I'd like to see Michael
Ash
Caine in a
just
role
had
like this.
Michael Caine. Anytime Ash starts casting, he puts Michael Caine in every role and asks
That was my
himself,
go-to
would
default
this
for
work?
1970. I was like, he's the right age. Which role am I putting him in? So yeah, originally it was Juba, and then I was like, no, that's problematic at best. So I didn't go that way. For many reasons. I looked at an actor that replicated. Sorry, how do you pronounce his first name? The actor who played him,
Jaimin?
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 Yeah.
Jaimin.
And he's he's a recognizable face, and I think this was the first movie that he was involved in that was a blockbuster, and then he would continue to cameo appearance with other films as well. I think he's in The Island, where
I
he has
think
a
the
good
only
significant
other
role.
thing he might have done before this, because Gladiator is definitely one where he got put on notice.
Yeah,
It might have been
yeah.
Amistad. Yeah.
Exactly, that's
Amistad.
it, Amistad. And then Blood Diamond sort of excelled him a bit further, but it never really
Mhm.
developed after that. I think he just had a bad agent,
Yeah.
or just Hollywood wasn't casting him. So
I
I went
think
for
it's
someone.
it's a combination of that. Yeah, for sure.
He did an interview actually recently, just saying how he's been screwed over by Hollywood at the moment.
Yeah, because he's one of those actors, you see him in the movie, you go, okay, I kind of want to watch that now because he's in it.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic actor. He's so good. He
Yeah.
puts everything into the roles he's in. But yeah, I picked someone who had a recognizable face, was a bit of an unknown in 1970. He actually hadn't done a film prior to this. He just did a lot of TV shows. His first film was in 1970, actually. You won't know him as any main characters, just like Dijal. So I think he is quite well for Juba, and he actually also speaks Italian fluently, which I just found out.
Oh.
I give you Sex Machine himself, Fred Williamson. That is probably the film that I think everyone knows him from, Dusk Till Dawn, which was in 1993. Starsky and Hutch, the Black Bounty Killer. He's a recognizable face. He's quite well built, especially for the role of Juba. And he's 32 at the time of 1970.
Okay.
1970, he's doing MASH at the moment. And he's also doing a film called Tell Me That You Love Me, Junie Moon. But before that, he was just in Star Trek, The Outsider, Ironside, and nothing else. 1968 was his first role. So yeah, Fred Williamson.
Okay. All right. Fred Williamson, I like it. Nick, where did you go?
Well, I went with a I don't know if it's a gamble, but I kind of went with someone that isn't known particularly for their acting, but later after their first career, they definitely delved into film and eventually became known more for their blaxploitation movies. He has been in such films as The Dirty Dozen. I went with Syracuse's own, the Cleveland Browns star running back, Jim Brown.
Okay.
He
all right.
he retired from the Cleveland Browns in the 60s and started his acting career, which is, where he got his start in things like The Dirty Dozen, and then he went on to go in movies like El Condor and Grasshopper, and then Tick 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 is one of the, I believe, the blaxploitation movies that he's in. But he became one of those better known actors through that genre of film. And I think, like we talked about, it's a prominent role, but there's not a lot that is required with it. So it's really on the actor to kind of sell it and make it a bigger deal. I think Jaimin did a great job with that. And I think this is just a good, suitable role for someone to jump in there. And I think he has the physique and just the attitude to, really sell a lot of these action scenes and stuff as well.
Okay. All right. I penciled in Clarence Williams III, who would have been on the mod squad at this time. But I'm not going to use my override here by any means. I like both your choices. I do. Kind of been like perusing their IMDb's, kind of seeing where they were at in 1970. And I think because I really could like put either of these guys here and be happy. I think I'm gonna make this decision based on something just very simple, which is I'm gonna put Jim Brown here just so I don't mess with Fred Williamson and MASH. Maybe it's just MASH was obviously a massive deal and he was in it, and so I'm just not gonna pull him out of it. So So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do there. I'm just gonna. I don't know, and I think I might be more partial to Jim Brown a little bit. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm gonna go Jim Brown for sure. He's here.
Are you sure,
Um,
Corey? Are you sure?
I'm positive.
No,
I'm
no, no, no.
positive.
Don't test it. Don't.
Well, no. I'm gonna go.
To be
I'm gonna
fair,
go. I'm
yeah.
gonna go Jim
No,
Brown.
Jim
Yeah.
Brown beats up Aliens and Mars Attack, so yeah, he has my vote.
It's
There
true.
you go. Yeah.
It's
See,
true.
it all
It's
comes
true.
around. Yeah.
It's like, did I want the guy that later goes and kills vampires, or goes and kills
Yeah,
aliens?
you do want that guy.
Yeah. So, but no. All right. Moving on. Jim Brown is on the board. We're moving on to Antonius Proximo, played by Oliver Reed.
Oh, you should see the Colosseum, Spaniard. 50,000 Romans watching. Every movement of your sword, willing you to make that killer blow. The silence before you strike. And the noise afterwards. It rises up like a storm. As if you were the thunder god himself.
You were a gladiator.
Yes, I was.
Ash informed me at the beginning of this podcast, right before we recorded, that Oliver Reed died in the middle of production of this. Did not know that. So, wow.
Yeah.
Oliver Reed, known for Oliver, the Brood, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Is it Mr. Hype? Or is that a typo, Nick? Seen a movie called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hype?
That might actually be accurate.
Okay. All right.
I will.
But again,
let me double check that because I don't trust myself either.
Yeah, I don't. I definitely don't trust Nick's.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's Mr. Hype.
It's 1980. Mr. Hype, Dr. Heckle, and Mr. Hype, an ugly, misshapen dude ingests a formula made by a colleague and turns into a handsome, devil-may-care but violent ladies' man.
This looks amazing. I'm gonna watch this. All right, cool. Dr. Heckle and Mr. Hype. All right, but Oliver Reed, yeah, like he's a big deal. Died in the middle of production. Apparently, a lot of his latter scenes were CGI'd. They had to kind of make do. But Antonius Proximo is an old, gruff gladiator trainer who was a former gladiator himself, who buys Maximus in North Africa. He was freed by Marcus Aurelius and becomes a mentor to both Maximus and Juba. This was Reed's final film appearance, as he died during filming. In the original film script, he was supposed to live. But unfortunately, I guess they had to kill him off due to the actor no longer being available due to his own death. So, all right. And then Ash, you said like maybe he was supposed to be the guy at the end burying the
the scene where Juba does that external monologue at the end to close off the film, that was meant to be Proximo, but they had to rewrite the entire third act because of Proximo's death. So Proximo was going to be a lot more present during the battle sequences. He was going to offer his last words about the crowd and have a lot of tying up the shoelace moments, but we never got that. And the prison sequence was his CGI scenes.
Honestly, I think that I feel like it improves the film. Not that I don't think that Oliver Reed didn't do an amazing job. I think that in that second act, you need that loss. And even though Commodus has taken over the plan, he's ruined everything with Maximus getting out to get the army, you don't have anybody prominent in the story that actually dies. Like, I mean, Hagar dies and then Proximo dies. But beyond them, the main senators are alive. Lucille is alive. Everybody's kind of still there in the playing. So with him, you lose that voice of reason and logic for Maximus, and it helps really narrow down like, oh, he's on his own more. If he had been in the jail with Maximus or been able to like kind of give him the Rocky rah-rah speech at the end, I feel like and I wonder if we would still really get that scene at the end with Commodus and Maximus where he's talking to him and he stabs him and then they rise up to the top like it is. Like it's the character's low for sure. But I think that it worked for what happened, for losing an actor like that in the middle of film. I feel like they handled it really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
they
think
did.
so too. Yeah.
Can I be honest with you guys though? While we're on the subject of the two prominent deaths in the film, I
Yes.
really
Hmm.
every single time get really gutted when Hagen dies. I want Hog. I just want him to pull through every time. He's
So
like,
do I.
he's
So do
weirdly
I.
like my favorite character in the movie. Like he rarely speaks, if ever, and he's just great. And it's like
Yeah.
he belongs. And I feel like he's just like he's this unsung hero, like just as important to Juba as Juba. To like Maximus. And like so when he
He
dies,
was
I'm
willing to
just
take
like
the bullet with the food. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
he was
just
just
like,
ready to
yeah,
go.
that's such a big scene when he like and I'm like, that's such a good dude. And so I get so upset every time he dies.
No,
I
and
scream no every time. So
absolutely right. And that's again the curse of Ridley Scott's stock characters are so well liked
yeah,
and never that developed, which is the really
yeah.
annoying
And
thing.
so
So yeah.
I think that I weirdly think Hagen's almost more developed than Juba just through all the subtle stuff though. Like weirdly, like
Yeah.
I don't know. I
He
attach
is.
myself to him more, but I love Ralph Moeller. I love that actor. He was very prominent in a lot of 80s movies I watched growing up, so I'm a huge
Yeah.
fan. So he's in Cyborg and Best of the Best 2. I love it. All right. So who made that one? Nick, you made that one. You're both on the board.
I did.
No
I made
shutout
one.
this
A shock.
so Nick, who do you have for Proximo?
Okay, this one was probably the hardest casting I had of the entire top 6, and I had a pretty extensive list going, and a lot of it ended up because a lot of them weren't quite old enough in my mind, or they were too young maybe. But who I ended up with was someone that really doesn't get their big payoff until later into the late 70s, early 80s, actually. I don't remember what year that movie came out, but I'm bringing you, Cory, Caine himself, Ricardo Montalban. Everyone knows him as Caine in Star Trek, Wrath of Khan. This year he is in The Devil's Backbone. I just think he's got that kind of well-worn, well-lived kind of look to himself, even at 60 years old. He's 70 something when he's Caine, which is crazy to think about because that dude is like jacked in that movie. And I think that the wrestling analogy works. He's the former guy. He's the ex Gladiator. He's training up the young guys, putting them through the courses, and he's putting out his speeches and stuff. And I think that Ricardo also has the ability to deliver those shadows and dust type of speeches that we hear throughout the movie. And I think that he also has that sensitivity enough to him that when it comes to the scene when they storm the prison and take him out, that we will feel that loss once he's gone.
He's also the owner of Fantasy Island, correct? Isn't he the Fantasy Island guy?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you're gonna have to kind of compete with that mentality with audiences right now of like, oh, he's the guy in the dapper suit. So
Yeah. All right. Cool. I like it. It works just enough that I like it. Ash, who do you have?
Yeah, it's interesting. Nick said this was the hardest one. This was the easiest one for me. This is the one I started with because I already had the guy in my head simply because I watched a film recently that he was in. The film came out in 1960 and it really cemented the role, quotes, costumes, and him as an actor. He was already well established. This was a man who was born in 1916. And I wanted someone who had a history of being tough. He played a boxer in a film called The Champion, and he is Spartacus himself in 1960. So for me, this was a given. I will give you, at the time, a 54-year-old Kirk Douglas.
interesting. That's a cool thought process too. You have Spartacus training Maximus, and it's about a 10-year span.
10-year
between
span,
movies?
yeah.
10-year span,
And
yeah.
then
Okay.
15 years before that, he played a boxer in The Champion. So he's a
Right.
physical actor. He's very good at monologues. He's very good at the interest in in-depth conversations. I just feel like, and I think Oliver Reed was 61 at the time, so he's 7 years younger than Oliver was at the time, but still, 54 years old.
Yeah.
No,
he's
it's
showing.
still there.
Mm.
Okay, I like both. I penciled in Gene Hackman.
I really wanted to put Gene Hackman somewhere.
I did
There
too.
just
I think,
wasn't-
that, and
there's
I think that's all it
yeah.
was. I just wanted Gene Hackman in this movie somewhere,
yeah.
and I'm just like, I mean, like, I could see it. It's just, it would just be very, it would be very 70s. Like, he doesn't fit. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
But
You know who Gene Hackman kind of would be good as is the announcer in the arena.
yeah, he'd do good. Or as if we did Falco, it could be Gene Hackman. He could be the
Yeah,
sleazy
it could be
senator.
Gene Hackman.
So, all right, cool. Honestly, the idea of having Spartacus in the movie really tickles my fancy.
That's good. Yeah, that's good.
It's we're bringing in the beginning, like in like maybe like the quintessential sword and sandal guy into this like capstone of Gladiator 1970 to kind of like end it.
Yeah.
Passing a torch kind of thing.
I do. I love it. I think I have to go Kirk Douglas here for that reason.
Yeah. No, it's too good. It writes itself too easily.
Man, I'm taking two people out of this. There was a Crooked Man movie I haven't seen yet. I'm gonna watch it this week and be like, what did I do? It's gonna be like my favorite movie. So I gotta go Kirk Douglas here. I do. I like it. That was good. That was good. I wish I'd kind of thought of it. I was really into Gene Hackman being in this movie, so I wrote it down.
How old is Gene Hackman in 1970 though?
He's always old. He's been old forever. He was never young.
Well, this is around the time of
Poseidon and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's probably in his 30s or 40s, maybe.
Probably 40s.
He's 90 something now.
Yeah.
He
so
was
he's probably
born in
40s.
1930. Oh, he'd be 30 years old. No, 40 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, 40.
Which
All right.
he looks old. Yeah, Corey's right. He looks old when he's 30 or 40 anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Okay, I like it. All right, that brings us to our top 3, which means we're going to start with Lucilla.
You seem upset.
I lost many men.
What did my father want with you?
To wish me well before I leave for home.
You're lying. I could always tell when you were lying because you were never any good at it.
I never acquired your comfort with it.
True, but then you never had to. Life is more simple for a soldier. Or do you think me heartless?
Played by Connie Nielsen, who apparently like speaks 9 languages and was like the on-set consultant to Roman history. Like apparently she's like an actual like Roman historian, and like she was very involved into like the sets and the costuming and like the accuracy of it all. So it's like Ridley Scott like said, we're casting her just because then we can save money on an actual Roman history consultant.
I need her on set.
Get her on.
All right, and she's known for obviously the Wonder Woman franchise that's going on right now, and then 1 Hour Photo and the movie Basic. I just rewatched Basic. Is she the main girl from Basic?
Yeah. She's quite comedian-like. She's also in the 1 Hour Photo, which I watched recently. And I was like, that's the same girl.
I watched her in 2 movies in the same week and did not. Okay, that means she's talented. That's awesome. That's great. Okay, cool. But anyway, she's Maximus's former lover and the older child of Marcus Aurelius, making her the older sister of Commodus. Lucilla has been recently widowed, resists her brother's incestuous advances while protecting her son Lucius from her brother's corruption and wrath. She's like, she's very much looks, I don't know, she has this villainous look, but she's kind of a good guy in the movie. So she's kind of a comedian.
Yeah, she starts off very untrustworthy, and then you come to realize she's a kind of a victim of circumstance. She's stuck in the rock and hard place where she has to kind of put up this demeanor of like going along with Commodus's plans, but also trying to be like, I'm just trying to protect my son. I'm trying to stay alive. I'm trying to like not let shit hit the fan. Audiences, I don't know if you said this earlier, but they also probably will have recognized her from being one of the Amazonians in Wonder Woman. So
yeah, that's that.
Yeah, I think she's like the main one, right? Like the Hippa.
She's Hippolyta or Hippolyta.
Yeah.
There's Robert Wright Penn, and then her. She's the second.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah,
Mm.
I feel like I didn't have this character pegged. Into I feel like maybe this is the first time I watched her and like really paid attention to her character, and so I'm
Yeah.
excited for this.
She does a great job because like we said, she has to have a level of power to her, a level of maneuverability as someone playing the political game, but then also the strength to like withstand everything that comes at her once the turn happens and Commodus finds out, and also before when he's making his moves towards her and stuff. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
she's the empress that never was. Basically,
exactly.
she should
Yeah,
be the one ascending the throne, like Marcus Aurelius said.
Like, it's a shame you were born a woman type thing, right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, just to clarify, she is fluent in Danish, Swedish, Norwegian, English, French, German, Italian, and Spanish. That's ridiculous.
That's insane.
Goodness.
That's ridiculous. Like
She's
those are
like a
not even all
plura.
romantic languages. That's odd. She is Danish, I think, and she has a son with Lars Ulrich of Metallica. That was the most fascinating fact I found
Yeah,
about her.
Oh,
So,
wow.
um, yeah, who's also Danish. So they they
they hit it off.
obviously
Connie
they click,
Nielsen.
they clicked there. Yeah. All right. So possibly the most talented person to ever be on the podcast, Connie Nielsen. So
Yeah,
Very in contention for sure.
Ash, you made it, so you can take it.
I shall take it. This one I had a few options. I won't name the names, but I settled on one. She was considered a sex goddess at the age of 14 years old. She's actually still alive at the moment, still doing movies. And I consider her an iconic woman, especially uh, since my fiance is Italian as well. She is considered the Italian Marilyn Monroe, and she has already been mentioned
Oh.
today as well. So I have taken her off the list from down the bottom and put her in for this role. I give you a 36-year-old Sophia Loren, which I believe
Nice.
Nick might have used for the 30 Seconds or Less for the Wife.
Yes, I tried to put her as Maximus's wife, Aria,
Yeah.
as we've designated.
I've redistributed her to the main
Okay,
role. I just
okay.
think she's definitely got a presence and she's definitely got acting chops. I think she is the most in-depth character in the movie, juggling Maximus and her brother and the Empire, and got the potential heir to raise as well as Lucius. So she has a lot of balls in the air. Sophia Loren, you might know her. She's done over 90 films, but I think the movie she's most known for is Two Women and Marriage Italian Style, both in the 60s. So she'd be well established before she came in here. She was a child actress. So, Sophia Loren, I think you needed someone quite beautiful, someone who can act, and just a presence. And it helps that she's Italian as well. So, yeah, that is my
Right. That's
my choice for Sophia.
I know
that is
her
hard
from
to
I know her from Grumpier Old Men. That's what I know Sophia Loren from.
That guy.
So
modern context, yes.
Yeah. 1995.
Oh, yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I just dropped her in at the bottom because I'm not familiar with her work as an actress. I recognize the name and obviously who
Yeah,
she
I mean,
is.
I've only seen 2 of her films, but I mean, I know the name, and the name sort of
Mhm.
outdoes what I know of her, so it's just one of those, yeah.
But yeah, just
okay.
it's pretty hard to beat. I countered with somebody that's also kind of a household name. She had a big middle of the '60s with hits, and the second I say these, you'll know who I'm talking about. Mary Poppins and Sound of Music herself, Julie Andrews. I think that she has this huge '60s, and she has some interesting choices between then and then The Princess Diaries, but it kind of goes on the low key a little bit. So I feel like this is just another chance for her to be in a big budget, big, well known movie. And I think she obviously has the acting chops. You know, she's known for playing these two major roles, but she was also on Broadway or the West End, I guess is how you would describe it, for My Fair Lady. You know, she lost out that film role eventually to her name escapes me. Computer. This will be edited. There.
Audrey Hepburn.
Audrey Hepburn. And so I think she has the acting chops for it. I think she has like that strength and resolve, but also the tenderness that we see obviously in Sound of Music. So I think that's why I put her there. It's very hard to compete with Sophia Loren as well, though, because it's kind of like when we casted Jean Reno in Casablanca. You're like, oh, he's actually from there. Oh, he's literally the character. Got it. Okay, but anyway.
This is interesting. This is interesting for two reasons. I initially wrote down something more in line with Sophia Loren. I wrote down like Raquel Welch, just kind of like that European sex pot type of character, because I feel like every time I've watched Gladiator, I'm just like, it's that kind of like Angelina Jolie, like intimidating woman presence of like, is she gonna stab you in the back? Or, like, it's like, yeah, like that. Like, is she gonna stab you in the back? Is she trustworthy type of thing? But then, like, again, so here's the thing. I'm actually gonna go Julie Andrews, because I think for the first time I paid heavy attention to the role and was like, oh, she's a good guy. Like, she's like, we trust her. Like, so I'm going to go Julie Andrews because I think like my initial thing is like a Sophia Loren, Raquel Welch, but then like, no, I like the idea of Julie Andrews maybe being put against type while still playing it safe. Like she's still the good guy,
And it does work, Julie Andrews. It does work.
Because if you think about even just the contrast between Mary Poppins and her character in Sound of Music, Mary Poppins is actually very tight-lipped, very like commanding in a lot of her scenes, and then the opposite character, and then subtle as well. So I don't know, Cory. I think I almost thought Ash kind of nailed that, but okay, if you want to, I mean, I agree.
So did I. I thought I had that in the bag. So, I thought, here we go, boom.
I was sitting there going, "Ooh, I think I had a good choice, but I think he got me."
I actually imagined when you said Julie Andrews, I was like, "That's not bad. That's okay." But
okay, all right. I feel better about myself. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I to me, maybe it's I also don't know enough of Sophia Loren's work outside of Grumpier Old Men, so maybe like I need more to get.
I'm just looking at the images of Sophia Loren, going, "Oh, she has this piercing gaze and stuff as well."
She was hot.
Yeah. No, she's intimidating as all get out. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. That brings us to our top two, starting with Commodus.
The Gladiator defied an emperor. Striking story. Now that people want to know how the story ends, only a famous death will do. And what could be more glorious than to challenge the Emperor himself in the great arena?
You would fight me?
Why not? Do you think I'm afraid?
I think you've been afraid all your life.
Just to quote Goodfellas, when Henry Hill, Ray Liotta, is describing Robert De Niro's character at the beginning of the film, he describes Jimmy Burke as a man who rooted for bad guys in the movies. When I first watched Gladiator, I was rooting for Joaquin Phoenix the whole time.
What?
I weirdly didn't see him as a villain as much as I saw him as this tragic character who didn't get the love of his father.
Also fair, though.
I've seen it a lot since I first watched it. And my wife and I still argue this, because I told her the first time, I was like, I sympathize with Joaquin Phoenix's character, dude. He wanted the love of his father, and like he like chose like the quarterback neighbor to raise instead. That was like, and like, and like
that's a good way of putting it.
And Joaquin Phoenix really, like, I mean, I get mad that he did not win the Oscar for just the scene alone where he kills Marcus Aurelius, saying like, you didn't list any of my virtues and like any of that stuff, and like,
it's so good.
It's a powerful scene,
but
I've watched it enough now to pick up more on he's totally willing to murder his nephew. Maybe it wasn't the love of his father as much as power so much. And he's a really good villain. So,
I think you're correct. Like and a lot of great villains are not just black and white evil.
Yeah, they're
like
tragic.
He's a tragic character. for sure. So
And
just to note real quick, he lost to Benicio del Toro in Traffic. He was up against Jeff Bridges in Contender, Willem Dafoe in Shadow of the Vampire, and Albert Finney and Aaron Brockovich. So pretty stacked roster there. I've never seen Traffic.
Traffic. He's not even in it for that long as well.
yeah, Benicio's like a small role in that. He does well.
Yeah.
I still think Joaquin should have taken it, but like,
Yeah.
the way I describe Commodus to my wife now is like, okay, yeah, he's an evil dude. I get it. But like, I still just say he was made. He wasn't like born. He's not like that kid that was born evil. He was made evil.
Yeah.
And like, I think he just remains evil the more like, he's alive and exists, and he doesn't know how to compartmentalize his daddy issues. And so, yeah.
Right.
He needed that appreciation, that acknowledgement.
His dad didn't love him, so why is he going to love his nephew? Type of thing. He killed his father, so of course he's willing to kill Lucius, So, but yeah, he's a bad dude. Played by Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix, known for everything. Younger brother of River Phoenix. His real name's Leaf Phoenix, but he's known for childhood actor, for Parenthood. He obviously was Johnny Cash in Walk the Line, was in the movie Her, where he falls in love with a robot, and then obviously won an Oscar recently for Joker. He is the amoral, power-hungry, embittered son of Marcus Aurelius. He murders his father when he learns that Maximus will hold the emperor's powers in trust until a new republic can be formed, and we just watch him descend into tyranny from there. Does not want to hand power over to the Senate, wants to keep it, totally wants his sister to have his babies. Yeah, it gets pretty bad. Yeah, like it's... Maybe I didn't pay enough attention the first time, so maybe I didn't pay enough attention the first time I watched it. Maybe I was having my own daddy issues back in 2008 or something, and I just really sympathized with them and ignored all the sister love and nephew murdering parts of them. And so, all right. Who made that one? Nikki made that one, so you get to go first.
Yes.
On Commodus.
All right. I don't know if this is like on the nose or not, but it just once I saw the name, I was like, yeah, that's my pick. I got to go with him. I'm giving you Malcolm McDowell. Most people will know him. A lot of film people will know him from Clockwork Orange, the Stanley Kubrick film. Other people will know him. He's just that British actor that's older, and he's played a lot of great supporting roles in movies like the Rob Zombie Halloween movies. But he pops up here and there, and he's done a lot of solid work, like consistent work. Like he has a ton of credits on IMDb. He's also been in Star Trek Generations, in a cool Time After Time movie in 1979, where he played H.G. Wells, that I keep meaning to watch. But I think the thing is that his role in Clockwork Orange, which comes out a year later after 1970, he never gets out from under that shadow. I feel like that's the role people always point to for him. So I feel like giving him this role doesn't necessarily be like take away from that. I think it just adds another great role for him that people can look back on and go, oh yeah, he totally nailed. He had a great back-to-back year right there.
Yeah, I like that. I really like that.
All right, Ash, who do you have?
Yeah, this is where I took a risk. This is where I didn't stick to the age. This is where I'm recasting. This is where I want to change my pick's sort of career. So Joaquin Phoenix was 26 when he played the role, which was incredible performance for 26. The person I've casted is 38. However, he can definitely pull off a younger vibe. And I like this actor, and I only know this actor, and I don't think I speak for just me. I think everyone knows this actor for just one role. And what I'm trying to do here is, this most famous role was 10 years prior, and he just regurgitated sequel after sequel, and he only died in 1992, so he was only 60 when he died. So I want to get this guy and put him in another big film. So I'm bringing you Norman Bates himself, Anthony Perkins. He's got the boyish charms. We've seen them in Psycho. We've got that acting ability where he can play a dual personality. And I just think that the age doesn't really constitute the fact that he can actually bring it down a notch. And I really, really do want Anthony Perkins to play something else besides Norman Bates with his short-lived career. But yeah, this is the one where I took a risk. I've casted a 38-year-old, but I don't think... I looked at photos of him as 40. He still looks like Norman Bates. Still looks like a kid. And I just think he has that spoiled brat face, especially that little smile he has at the end of the first movie in the prison. I can definitely see Commodus doing that exact face when Norman Bates is in the prison and he just smiles. So yeah, that's who I brought to the table. Norman Bates for Commodus.
Wow. Okay. I got a lot. Okay. I know what I'm going to do here. I assumed this is where I would use my override because I like this character most. This is so. I was semi-prepared, and I wrote down 3 names trying to figure out what I was going to do and trying to anticipate moves. I did land in an Anthony Perkins type territory with one of my names. I actually wrote down Roddy McDowell, who would have been about the same age, and very kind of like more of a British Anthony Perkins kind of character, kind of an actor. Kind of I kind of also feel like Roddy McDowell kind of got like known for playing an ape more than anything. And you know,
he's in the Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah, one of his biggest roles is that, and he's under so much makeup, you know, he gets lost.
Oh, he's the original Caesar. Got it.
Yeah,
got it. Okay.
Then I wrote down, of course, Jack Nicholson, who got nominated for an Oscar and lost this year, and so I thought it was only fitting, maybe let's just move him over here
keep
where
that
he
trend
can get
going. Yeah,
he can get nominated for an Oscar and lose. But again, the third name I wrote down was 100% Malcolm McDowell. So
damn,
that's where I'm gonna go with. It is on the nose, but in the right ways. So,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
So I see definitely where Ash was going with Anthony Perkins, and I dang near landed there.
Perkins has that kind of Caesar look to him for sure. Like he looks like he would be an emperor. He would be molded in a bust somewhere in Rome. You know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And I feel very much the same way about Anthony Perkins. I feel like his career should have been bigger and not just Psycho. But yeah, Malcolm McDowell. I love it. It works. It's that unhingedness.
Yes.
You know?
Massively unhinged. Yeah. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. I did consider writing down Mick Jagger, but again, I've never watched any of his movies. But I just thought Mick Jagger as Commodus would have been incredible. But again, I actually don't know if he acts. I still need to sit down and see a Mick Jagger movie. So
I would say this though. What is interesting is that because when I thought of Malcolm McDowell, I looked it up, and had Clockwork Orange came out before 1970, I probably would have wrote him down. I think it has a lot to do with like it being the movie that kind of puts him on a map more, and then Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, I think timing's important there. All right. Yeah, we got to go with Malcolm McDowell for Commodus. That brings us to Maximus Decimus Meridius.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance, in this life or the next.
Played by Russell Crowe of A Beautiful Mind, LA Confidential, Les Miserables, Nice Guys. I mean, he's been in a ton of things. 3:10 to Yuma is probably my favorite Russell Crowe movie. So, Maximus Decimus Meridius, a Hispano-Roman legatus forced into becoming a slave who seeks revenge against Commodus. He has earned the favor of Marcus Aurelius and the love and admiration of Lucilla prior to the events of the film. His home is near Trujillo in today's province of Caceres, Spain. After the murder of his family, he vows vengeance. So he again was going to be the interim emperor, but of course Commodus intervenes, has his family murdered, and he was supposed to be murdered and ends up a slave gladiator. So, Nick, you made it. You have to go first on Maximus Decimus Meridius. That is the burden.
No, it's okay. It's okay. For once, I know what I'm doing. I'm gonna go with it. I will say that fun fact, we don't talk about potential castings, but apparently this was supposed to be Antonio Banderas, and I think that's why he's a Spaniard in the script.
Yeah,
Because I don't believe Russell Crowe has any Spanish or Latin ancestry.
no,
But
he's like
it's
Australian, isn't he?
Australian,
Or
isn't
New
he?
Zealand?
yeah, he's
Those?
right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is, while this wasn't his first like big movie in Hollywood, this was definitely the movie that put like Russell Crowe on the map. Like he was he just nailed it. Perfect place, perfect time. And really, like, I think the movie, while it's not the most powerful performance, I think that goes to Joaquin Phoenix. It's the steady performance throughout the whole movie that, and you talk about the leading actor being the person that the audience can often put themselves on as an avatar at certain points, but he also just has this ability to have the subtleness to bring that strength, but it's not an over the top, I'm a big buff kind of Arnold Schwarzenegger type thing. It's more common man to an extent. But anyway, all that to say, I'm bringing you someone that has that kind of ruggedness to him. And he's been around in the 60s a lot for a lot of action movies. You've known him in other movies such as the Death Wish series. He's also known for movies such as the Dirty. I think he was in Dirty Dozen. I know he was in The Great Escape, but I'm giving you Charles Bronson. He is 49, so he's a little bit on the older side. We're not giving him the mustache from Death Wish. He's going to be clean shaven here. But I think in terms of it's kind of hard to find like a guy who's closer to middle age. He's, a Roman general that's going to be turned into a slave. But I think that Bronson has that ruggedness to him, and where he's a leader of men kind of vibe, and then comes up from the bottom to the top to take on the emperor.
That's so wild. Charles Bronson. Wow. I have seen enough of his non-Death Wish movies like Great Escape, like that I can kind of see what you're doing here.
Yeah.
It's just, man, he is really known for that mustache and for B action movies. But yeah,
I think that's what's weird about it is like in the 60s, like that it's like the mustache really isn't as like he has it in Once Upon a Time in the West and he has it in Death Wish, but like when you take that away, like in Great Escape, he's playing a is it an Italian man or is he? I don't think he's Russian.
No,
but he has Italian. An accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just because his mustache is so bad that you stick with it.
It's a bad mustache. You take it away, it's great. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
But you got to get rid of the mustache.
And then
it's the opposite of the Burt Reynolds effect. So,
and he's ripped. He is ripped. So it's yeah. All right, cool. Ash, who do you have for Maximus Decimus Meridius?
Yeah. So there was a lot of names floating in the air for this one. I had too many options and I had to just narrow it down. So I think I went really on the nose here in terms of the actor's trajectory with Russell Crowe. Both were TV stars. Both were in a few films that were recognizable before their careers shot up. And both had big films before, during and after this movie came out as well. So I went for someone who looks a bit like an action star, who has a presence about him. This is 2 years before one of his big movies. And there was definitely a few actors in that movie that I could have casted as the role of Maximus. So I bring you a very rugged and a 34-year-old Burt Reynolds. I chose Burt Reynolds because I saw him in an episode of FBI and he was actually really convincing as an authoritative figure. And that sort of mellowed into Deliverance with the bow and arrow. He's a leading man easily, and I think he still had that persona when he was in his late, 40s, 50s, 60s. But Russell Crowe was 36 during this. I've casted someone who's 34, and I think he does show that he has had some years on him, even at 34 years old. So I have gone for a Burt Reynolds for Maximus Decimus Meridius.
I think that's what's interesting is that for both of these actors, like for Charles Bronson, the death wish, the mustache, it's imprinted on people's minds. And with Burt Reynolds, strangely, modern audiences see him as Smokey and the Bandit and striptease and all, and so it's you have to with Burt Reynolds especially, you have to go like, guys, before all of that, it's like latter day Pacino, before the shouting and all the stuff, like this dude was an actor,
Yeah. He acted in these TV series. Yeah, and that's the thing with Burt Reynolds, and even with Charles Bronson as well. They're only known for I'd say more Charles Bronson Death Wish series. Burt Reynolds sort of meandered from one show to another. I think Deliverance pushed him up in The Longest Yard, and I think he was really big in art era, 80s and 90s as well. I think that's where he sort of kicked off. But I don't know. I'm not a fan of Burt Reynolds myself, but I mean, I love Boogie Nights. But yeah, I saw a picture of him in his mid-30s. I was like, wow, he actually looks spot on.
Yeah.
But I think that's the problem as well. It's right on the nose.
When is Deliverance?
It is 72.
72, so it hasn't come out yet.
Because he's ripped in Deliverance.
But then you think about it, Russell Crowe isn't ripped in Gladiator.
No, he's not ripped. His arms are ripped. It's like all he did was
burly.
arm day.
The word
burly,
is burly.
Yeah.
It's like all he did was arm day. You almost never see him without the chests stuff on. And then the one time we do, he's not like all pecs and abs. It's mostly like he just lifted weights and did,
exactly
curls is all he did to get ready. So he's got big arms and that's about it. Which Bronson and Reynolds both have huge arms in the 70s. They're both, man, y'all brought me two like B action actors known for having mustaches.
I was gonna say, but we don't want the mustaches. Maybe I don't know. Ash may want the mustache.
I don't know. I mean, maybe not.
I mean, Maximus has got a beard, so
I think it's one of those roles where it's like it worked in 2000. It's not a necessity in the 70 version.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I think like both of your choices are a little shocking at first, but I have seen enough movies by both of them to like know that like they're exactly what you say. They kind of got like known for one thing, like Death Wish or Smokey and the Bandit, but they're both like very talented actors, and we got to see Burt, in Boogie Nights in the latter part of his career, like really like also do it. It's more of just like less of, do I like your guys more than my guy? And it's like I kind of just want to be selfish.
I mean, it's your movie
because I like my guy a lot. Yeah, but it's that thing where you play your guy at the end, and then everyone just like makes you feel bad about it because like they don't see it. But it's like
I won't do that.
Listen, I had that double in Face Off, so it's fine.
I did. So I did write down and just want your opinion on a Sean Connery, like.
I think it's hard to remove the Bond from him.
Is it?
Bond.
Yeah,
okay.
It's too soon. Yeah.
I know it's just he's still doing Bond. He's still doing Bond actually. Like he does it in 71. Dr. No 71. So he's still in the middle of it. I think what I really struggle with is like I still want my actor to have an accent, but in 1970s Sword and Sandal films, they're not even going to do it. They're just
not a huge issue. Yeah.
They're just going to have American accents. It'll just be whatever. Like they'll have English and American accents, but like no one will bat an eye. So I think I'm gonna override just because I like my guy more.
Okay.
He's not as old as Bronson. I think he's about the same age as Reynolds here, maybe a little bit older.
Okay.
I'm going to bring you Paul Newman. He's coming right off of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. A little older. He grows
blondie.
Yeah, but he grows a good blonde beard as well. And he's always been like one of those dudes that's in shape and like very like rugged and weathered kind of. I think I like the whole weathered thing.
Yeah.
Which Bronson definitely does. Bronson looks completely weathered. And then Burt Reynolds can, by all means. I think I just really like Paul Newman, and I know you both are kind of staring at me like, Paul Newman, what the heck? But like, I like it.
I'm just wrapping my head. I'm wrapping my head around it. Yeah,
I'm looking at him.
He has the cool to him. I mean, he's literally Cool Hand Luke, you know. And Butch Cassidy Sundance Kid.
He's got swagger, which I like. But does
'cause,
Maximus have swagger?
I think the thing though is that Paul Newman does it. It's not a thing where it's like, oh, he's too cool. I think he can ride that line between being the cool guy, but then bringing it back and being more relatable and human.
And
That's the thing. He's a cool. Yeah, he is. He's too cool. I think he's too cool for Maximus because Maximus is completely stoic and he just wants to die in the movie, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of got a death wish.
Yeah,
that was not intended, but
I see what you're doing, Nick. I see what you're doing.
So, no, I don't know. I like obviously like I thought about Robert Redford too, but I think he's far too pretty for Maximus. And I don't see it with Robert Redford, but like I just immediately went to Paul Newman. It was like I've seen enough of his stuff. I know he's got some dramatic chops. I think he's gonna sell the whole thing about casting Maximus is essentially the one scene, the husband to a murdered wife, father to a murdered son,
right?
Like just that. I'm just like Newman can nail it in my head, and then the rest we can work with. I feel like so. I'm just going to override.
It works for you. I think it works for you because we talked about what changes in this movie. What the difference between 2000 and 1970 is that in 1970 it's still a star-run industry. You sell the movie a lot on who's in that lead role, and especially in a dying, kind of losing its value genre of the sword and sandal, of the epic, you want to have a name up there. In 2000, you had Ridley Scott, and it was this big. The sell was like, we're bringing back the sword, and this is how it looks. It looks awesome. Yeah. And with this, it's like we got to put butts in seats. And Paul Newman is a bankable star. He just came off of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. So that's how it changes. It's almost the perspective of like, how are we going to sell this movie? And a lot of it rides on the lead actor to an extent, because otherwise you have Julie Andrews and you have other people that are known, but you do need like that name, because a lot of those 60s movies, it's like big all-star cast, big memorable names. Like that's how they're getting butts in seats. And so it makes sense that way. I lean with Ash on the same side of it too, though. It's like that Maximus is this stoic revenge-based character. So that's just kind of what you're having to deal with there.
Yeah. So I think just to finish up on that, like, and again, if I probably would have leaned with Burt a little bit if I didn't use my override here, just because maybe I have a bigger sample size with Burt Reynolds. But also I think it's because of the swagger. I actually think that Maximus has a little bit more of it than like is on the surface. And that's why I think I would lean with Burt if I was going to go between the two, because Bronson's he fits more of that. Yeah. That like, I want to die, revenge, like obsessed character. But I think also the reason I like really fell with Newman by the end when I was rewatching it was in the end, the last scene where Maximus is chained up and Commodus stabs him. There's a swagger there. He's smirking at Commodus, and he's like saying, all you can do is smile back. And like, to me, like that's like Paul Newman's going to nail that. He's going to smirk right in the face of death, and he's going to do it. Like, I do think that he does reveal a little bit of personality at the end. Mm-hmm. That is like, absolutely. I'm about to die. I know I'm about to die, but I'm going to take you with me type of thing. And so, all right. No. That is Gladiator 1970. So we're just gonna repeat the cast here, just so we get a good like wide shot of this, see how it's gonna look. All right, Maximus's wife will be played by Goldie Hawn. Tigress of Gaul will be played by luchador himself, El Santo.
Yes.
Senator Gracchus will be played by David Tomlinson. Hagen will be played by Andre the Giant. Quintus will be played by James Corburn. Cicero will be played by Robert Duvall. And Lucius will be played by Donny Osmond. It's wild. Marcus Aurelius is going to be played by Henry Fonda. Juror number 8 himself. Juba will be played by Jim Brown of the Cleveland Browns. Antonius Proximo will be played by Kirk Douglas. Lucilla will be played by Julie Andrews, and then Commodus will be played by Malcolm Insane McDowell, and Maximus Decimus Meridius will be played by Paul Newman. That is Gladiator 1970.
I think that's a
Amazing.
solid 1970s like cast. Like I feel like we did our job of like putting Gladiator 1970. That's it. Like
it's going to sell tickets.
We did a
It'll
solid
sell
job.
tickets.
Yeah.
It's going to sell tickets.
The only script note I will give at the end is that we're going to probably have to change potentially Maximus's background, where he's not a Spaniard. Maybe
he's blonde in this now.
Blonde, blue-eyed
Russell
Spaniard.
Crowe.
But at least he had dark hair, so it helped. It helped. We're just gonna have to get him really tan. Yeah, just get him real weathered out there.
Well, that's the whole James Bond thing as well. Like James Bond had to be dark haired, and then they got Daniel Craig, so you know it can work. But I'm warming up to Paul Newman a little bit as well.
Yeah.
All right.
It definitely works.
Solid.
Well, that was Gladiator 1970. I actually have no idea who's picking the next movie. Who's picking the next movie?
I believe it is Ash's turn, and we will have Cass and Ash with us next time for the another group activity.
Ash, do you have a movie for us?
I do not.
Okay, that's fine.
But we're going to pause and let me think 2 seconds.
We do have your list if you wanted to look at that.
Yeah? Hold on. It won't take me long to find a film. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Ooh, lots of fun choices there.
Something like that.
For the record, Nick, and Ash, as soon as we quit, I'm gonna have to jump off pretty fast.
Just make sure that we have it download.
I just don't want y'all to think I'm rude.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so we are picking. Oh, sorry, do you want to ask me again, and I'll go for it?
Yeah. Ash, you're picking the next movie then. So, what do you have for us for the next episode?
Yes, this is a film that I loved growing up because I'm obsessed with these kind of movies. It's advertised as a B movie with some serious A-listers in it. So I am taking the 1997 Jennifer Lopez film Anaconda, and I am pushing it to 2014. So that is the Jennifer Lopez. And there's some serious names in the original movie. Ice Cube, Owen Wilson, Jonathan Hyde, Eric Stoltz, John Voight. So we've got a lot to play around with. So I'm taking it to 2014. So I'm pushing it 17 years.
I'm so excited to rewatch Anaconda. That's exciting.
Okay.
Nick, have you seen Anaconda?
I have seen it once, and it was a wild experience. So
it's going to get wilder. It's going to get wilder. Especially in 2014. Have you seen Anaconda, Cory?
Yeah, no, I've probably seen it like a dozen times. It's a great movie.
Dude.
I mean, this is like my wheelhouse, which doesn't bode well for the podcast because I have a weird wheelhouse. So like,
that crowd is getting bigger, Cory. No, definitely. I can't wait to see what you bring to the table with this one, especially with and this is one where you can actually mix up the roles a bit. So in terms of gender, in terms of nationality. So I'm interested to see what you bring to the table here because this is a very fluid casting.
Well then, okay. everyone, I hope you enjoyed Gladiator 1970 and join us next episode for Anaconda 2014. That's going to be wild. And Cass will be joining us. All four of us will be present. So please tune in next time. Well, other than that, we hope you enjoyed the episode. Check us out on social media. We're there. And until then, say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick.